changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. Cops giving damn about a need, bro. Pull a trigger, killing, he's a heat, bro. Get it to the kids, who the hell cares? One less hungry mouth, will no kill each other. It's time to fight back, that's what Huey said. 2 shots in the dark, now Huey's dead. I got love for my brother, but we can never go nowhere unless we share with each other. We gotta start making changes. Learn to see me as a brother instead of 2 distant strangers. And that's how it's supposed to be. How can the devil take a brother if he's close to me? I let it go back to when we played as kids, but then change. That's the way it is. Come on, come on.
That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. Oh, yeah.
Critical distance is crucial wherever you evaluate photography and art, and the requisite distance is particularly difficult to achieve when the image captured are so recent. Images haven't been as effective as protests as the images taken during the Vietnam War, and there are a few different reasons for this. One of the drawbacks of the age of internet is that the internet technology reduces the iconic importance of an image because the reception is not simultaneous. Over the years, we've become very desensitized to the different things that are happening in our culture and our world. It's because we are so familiar with these photos that we don't take them personally, and that they do not affect us. Before, when material was reviewed on the evening news or in the newspaper, people were more staggered. But now that this is a daily occurrence online, we've become used to seeing the images. When we fail to recognize that each person, no matter where they live or who they are, matters, then we fail to see the significance of our role in our lives. We're all part of this society, we're all part of this culture, and we need to recognize each other as just as important because everyone does matter. Everyone has a specific role. Imagine what the world would be like if we all mattered and we lived each day as if each person mattered.
At home, drawing pictures of mountaintops with him on top, lemon yellow sun, arms raised in a beam, the dead lay in pools of maroon below. Daddy didn't give attention, oh, to the fact that mommy didn't care. King Jammy, the wicked.
Even Pearl Jam's lyrics from the 1990s tell us that individuals act out not because of the circumstances that they're dealing with in the moment, but usually from a preconditioned aspect of their lives. Parents who don't care or show care, misrepresented ideas of what's happening in their own reality. But none of it should be dismissed because each person lives differently and are affected by things in a different way. And if we notice that everybody matters, then the song Jeremy by Pearl Jam, looking at that character in that story, it becomes our truth and our responsibility to protect that individual in order to protect the greater good of society.
Just like the day, oh, like the day I heard. Daddy didn't give affection, no, and the boy was something that mommy wouldn't wear. King Jammy, the wicked.
Chris Emden is a good friend of mine whom I met through my organization, PDK, Professional Educators Association. Chris has done TED Talks and has done public speaking on his hip-hop ed movement. He recognizes the value of hip-hop in culture and society in which students need to speak through their own personal truths. He is a science teacher who relies on hip-hop ed to teach his students what it is that they're learning in the form of a rap so that they can better remember the lyrics. He also asks his students to express themselves, their personal lives, through their raps. Explicit word choice is not off the table with that either. He believes in respecting students for what it is that they're saying, because if they choose to use those words, it is a demonstration of the power behind what their feelings are, and he doesn't want to devalue anyone's feelings. He is known as a science genius for his techniques and has traveled the world explaining how education can benefit from hip-hop ed. While many people believe that the hip-hop era came about in the Bronx of New York, the truth is the culture originated with Jamaicans. The Jamaicans were already in Jamaica creating this type of music at the time, and individuals in New York who were bombarded with all the casualties of the circumstances of the 1970s were under this historical condition that helped bring about hip-hop in their area. People took to the streets in larger groups to celebrate their culture and their lives. In the 1970s, there were several things that were going wrong in the world, but more than 30% of the Hispanics and 25% of African Americans were living in poverty. But the war on poverty in the 60s became the war on the poor in the 80s. Ronald Reagan's hallmark domestic policies were on his war on drugs, which punished cheap crack cocaine much more severely than expensive powder cocaine. Policies like this increased the number of poor and minority prison inmates dramatically. An underground economy began to flourish when jobs were lost and legitimate economy couldn't provide a means to live. The policy problems didn't end there. The First Amendment was vigorously policed and contested, while growing problems of the Second Amendment, gun ownership, were ignored. In 1981 and 1982 combined, 43,000 Americans were murdered. To give a sense of comparison, 58,000 American soldiers died in the entire Vietnam War. So it was no surprise that in the early days, the hip-hop era came to rise. The Afro-Caribbean youth culture took it into consideration, and that's when they began their block parties, which was an example of a dance hall from outdoor parties in Jamaica. DJs started playing this music, and then came about things like breakdancing, graffiti, and rap.
People, then yo get funky. Suicide force, then yo get funky. The Zulu Nation, then yo get funky. Yeah, just hit me. Just get funky and hit me. Just get on down and hit me. That pop just getting so funky now, hit me. Yeah, just hit me. Time to chase your dreams about the seats, make your body swing. Socialize, get down, let your soul lead the way. Get down, go ladies. It's a living dream. Love life live. Come play the game. Our world is free. Do it to 1.3.
Of course, it wasn't until Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, did we hear the words hip-hop being used within the lyrics of any song. That's when hip-hop really got its name and came into America. So most of the music that fell into the hip-hop era earlier on, like Rapper's Delight, was for the purposes of making connections to the song, rhyming, and dance parties. It wasn't until later on that we actually heard some music that was meant for social change, that exhibited what was happening in the lives of others. Grandmaster Flash, with The Message, provides us with more specific information in the life of an African American.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stage, you know they just don't care. I can't take the smell, can't take the noise. Got no money to move out, I guess I got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back. Junkies in the alley with the baseball bat. I tried to get away, but I couldn't get far. Cause a man with the touch repossessed my car. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Standing on the front stoop, hanging out the window, watching all the people run.
Things will never be the same. Oh, yeah. That's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. I see no changes. All I see is
Some say that hip-hop died with Tupac. It's an interesting concept. He's a natural poet. He attended the Baltimore School for the Arts. He's a well-known rapper. And he's dead, and it's interesting to think that so much rap has occurred after him, but that the hip-hop era died with him. He tells us his story, but Tupac is known in the literary world as a feminist writer, and that he has documented the trials of Black people. His struggles tell a story that's very particular to a certain demographic. And when you look at the actual words that he chooses to use, his story is not really different from anyone else's who's going through difficulties in life. He talks of empowering our youth to make good choices, to make worthwhile changes.
We gotta make a change. For us as a people to start making some changes. Let's change the way we eat. Let's change the way we live. And let's change the way we treat each other. You see, the old way wasn't working, so it's on us to do what we gotta do to survive.
The changes come from us.
No changes, can't afford
They're intrinsic. And if we don't make then nothing will change.
drugs so the police can bother me. And I ain't never did a crime I ain't have to do. But now I'm back with the facts, giving it back to you. Don't let them jack you up, back you up, crack you up, and pimp smack you up. You gotta learn to hold your own. They get jealous when they see you with your mobile phone. But tell the cops I can't touch this. I don't trust this. When they try to rush, I bust this. That's the sound number 2. You say it ain't cool. My mama didn't raise no fool. And as long as I stay black, I got a stage strap. And I never get to lay back. Don't worry about the payback. Some buck that I roughed up way back. Coming back after all these years. Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat. That's the way it is. The way it is. Things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. My brother, you're my sister. That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. Never change. Sun shine in the grass, and my
children play, sirens passing